Let's journey to the only U.S. national park south of the equator, a paradise made up of 3 islands filled with coral and culture. Join me as we explore National Park of American Samoa. I'm your host, Missy Rentz, and this is the Parks Podcast. I'm excited to welcome P.T. Lathrop to this episode of the Parks Podcast. P.T. is the Superintendent at National Park of American Samoa. P.T., welcome to the Parks Podcast.
Thank you so much, Missy. It's my honor to be here.
This is like such a dream conversation for me because the National Park of American Samoa seems like the dream. So to get to learn about it, and it is only the second of the parks I've interviewed that I haven't ever been to. So it's a wish list, bucket list park for me. But I'm so excited to learn more about the park.
Sure. It was a bucket list dream for me, too. I came here as a visitor in 2017.
I love it. I love it. Let's do some park stats to let everybody know some basic information about the park. The park is located in Pago Pago, American Samoa, which is 2,600 miles southwest of Hawaii. It is the 50th national park and was created on October 31st, 1988, when Ronald Reagan was president of the United States. The park is 13,500 acres. 9,500 of that is land, and 4,000 of that is coral reef and marine area. Last year, in 2024, there were 22,567 visitors. And some interesting notes, the highest elevation is Lada Mountain at 3,170 feet. There are 3 islands that are part of the park. It preserves and protects coral reefs, the rainforest, flying fox, which are fruit bats, and the Samoan culture. There's 800 native fish species and 200 coral species. Let's dive into this amazing park.
Sure. And to put some of that into some context here, we preserve the only paleo-tropical rainforest in the United States. And that's a fancy word that just means our rainforest comes from what we call the old world, has its family roots in the Papua New Guinea rainforest versus tropical rainforests of the Americas, which we're a little bit more familiar with. So the only paleo-tropical rainforest in the United States. And then you referenced our coral species. Just to put that in context, we have one beach inside the park that has over 200 coral species. By comparison, the entire Atlantic Ocean, including the Caribbean Basin, all of those wonderful diving and snorkel spots in Cuba and the Dominican Republic, all of that total has 60 species of coral. And here we have one beach with over 200.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay, we've hit on it. I think I could answer this for you, but let me just start with, why is it important that National Park of American Samoa is part of the National Park Service?
So there's a legislative answer to that. If you look inside of our enabling legislation, the park was created, one, to protect that paleo-tropical rainforest, specifically calling out protecting the habitat of the flying foxes. We have 2 species of flying foxes that you mentioned. These are large, 3-foot wingspan, diurnal, meaning day flying, large bats. You'll see them out and about. A lot of folks, when they visit, one of the first questions is where they can see one. And 9 times out of 10, they've already seen plenty. But to our eyes, we're usually almost dismissing these as maybe crows. They just seem like background noise. But if you turn your head out the window, really at any time of day, you're going to see bats flying around. But back to why we're important, the paleo-tropical rainforest, the bat habitat. Third is those coral species I mentioned. Half the park is underwater. We take up protecting our corals here really seriously, and I hope to share some marine science with you at some point. And then also we preserve the Samoan culture, or the Fa'a Samoa, the Samoan way of life. We do that in a few ways. One, this park really is the bastion of Samoan culture. Everything we do, except for this podcast, is bilingual. If you follow us on social media, if you go on our website, if you come to our exhibits or get any of our publications, they're all bilingual. All of our staff, except for me and one other, is fully bilingual. And I have my Samoan class later this afternoon. I am working on it for my Samoan. And then we also preserve Samoan culture in a really special way. And I hinted earlier that I believe that this is the best national park. And there's a lot of ways that we can unpack that. But I'll leave one thing for you that a lot of people don't know. It's easy to see the coral. It's easy to see the flying foxes and the mountains, and just get really enamored with the beauty. But Samoa is the birthplace of all Polynesian culture. The Hawaiians come from Samoa about 1,500 years ago. Tahitians come from Samoa. The Maori of New Zealand come from Samoa. The Tongans come from Samoa. The Marquesans. Polynesia culture starts here in Samoa about 3,000 years ago, and the park has the archaeology that tells that story, which
Wow.
to me, like, still gives me shivers and goosebumps to think that, yeah, we have a national park that is really important when it comes to coral, when it comes to tropical rainforests, but also truly preserves the birthplace of one of the most dynamic cultures, cultural diasporas in our entire Earth's history.
And that's one of the things that I think I found the most interesting when I first started learning about the park, and then as I was researching for this conversation, is the cultural preservation. I feel like so many parks, what they're preserving is what has been. And I feel like this is a park that, yes, it's what has been, but it's a culture that still is alive and thriving today. And I find that to be so interesting and just an interesting take for the park.
Yeah, I totally agree, Missy. I mentioned earlier that my background's in history, and I've always personally cringed at the term living history, which is usually dress up and pretend. And I was always like, if the history is so living, why are we pretending? I've always had a
See.
hard time squaring that circle. But you're right, here and many places around the National Park Service, but certainly here at the National Park of American Samoa, yeah, you nailed it. This is
Yeah.
an evolving culture that still works really hard, and the park does as well, to preserve the Samoan way of life, but also keep it evolving.
And I in my previous life, I had a few clients that were from American Samoa, and I think the values, their rich values of, I guess, like, family and connection, are
Community.
community, it's such a beautiful model that, man, I feel like we should all be living off of these values.
Yeah, I'd add humility there, hard work, kindness, patience,
Mm.
grace. As a leader here, I have to be careful because the team that I am proud to work with embodies all of those attributes so much, that if I ask for just, I'll give you an example. I recently bought a motor scooter, a moped, and I drove it to work for the first time yesterday morning. And it was raining when I arrived. And as I was parking, and they do this for each other, they do this for everybody. But I've never worked anywhere that would do this. They come out, hustle for finding me a tarp and weights, and then in about 5 minutes, most of the park staff had assembled me a makeshift. I want to call it a fale. You see my Samoan coming out, basically a small covered parking for my new moped.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
And I only share that just to share the spirit of how we do really value kind of community here and looking out for each other. And if you see somebody needing something, whether it's a pat on the back or a hand up, or in my case, a tarp for moped, we all make it happen. And we try to serve our visitors that way too.
How does the park tell the story? And I've said preserve too much, but how does it amplify the culture and help educate visitors on that culture?
This year, under the leadership of our interpretation and education team, we have a plethora of programs and demonstrations, from coconut husking to traditional weaving demonstrations. So through the variety of programs. But one thing that we're piloting this year, and this is very hot off the press, but very soon you'll see on our website something really unique in the National Park Service, which is, instead of saying that we have an interpretive program Fridays at 10 o'clock, join us if you can or if you're interested. Visitors who are coming to the island will be able to email us and request a program of their choice and at the date and time of their choice.
Oh, wow.
So next time you come, Missy, or when you come, you'll be able to email us and say, I'd like to learn more about those two bat species, and I'll be there Thursday and Friday. Can I have a bat tour at 10? And we will make it happen for you. Stay tuned on that. It's a pilot program this year, but we're trying to offer more customized tours. You mentioned our visitorship. Our visitation gets, oh, this is anecdotal. I don't have like data right in front of me, but we get maybe 20 to 30 visitors a week, and they tend to stay a week. The flights are Mondays and Thursdays, so folks tend to stay Monday to Monday. So we get really intimate visits with them. We'll see them
Yeah.
the day after they arrive. We'll see them out on the trails. Might even see them at the gas station. So we have this long time with folks, and we have had a hard time kind of connecting our interpretive schedules will set up a guided hike, like I said, at a certain fixed point in time. But if that doesn't match their schedules, then they've missed that opportunity for the trip. So we're trying to re-engineer that, reverse engineer that,
Yeah.
I should say, to meet them when they want, where they want. So I'll let you know how that
Oh,
goes.
that's cool.
Our social media is active. We're not Yellowstone, but our social media does a great job of telling the story. And then we have a really robust education program, a really robust education program. All of last week was, no, 2 weeks ago was Deep Reef Science Week. And we had most every single student in American Samoa here at the park with virtual reality goggles on, touring those corals that I mentioned earlier. And it
That's
was awesome to see.
so
So we use all approaches of kind of sharing that story here. But what I mentioned about the birthplace of the Polynesian culture, that is something that we are going to elevate more
yeah.
and be more intentional about sharing.
And is the park intermixed within the community or is it set aside?
It's very intermixed in the community. You really can't separate one or the other. Some of that's because we're on a relatively small island, and you'll hear me say it in almost every single meeting I'm at, and that's that we're all on the same island. So we all have the same goals when it comes to conservation and water use and education. But furthermore, being a small island, our employees are from here. Our employees are by and large born and raised here in American Samoa. They're plugged into the community. And then really what I should have led with is that this park is unique in that it is leased directly from the Samoan people. All
Mm.
lands in American Samoa can only be held by Samoans, and that goes for the national park as well. So this is not federal land. This is leased land. It's on a 50-year lease. We're on year 33 of that 50-year lease. And every single year, the Department of Interior pays the American Samoa government directly for that lease. Then the American Samoa government divides it up amongst the villages that we lease from.
Oh, that's nice. And it's so often I'm talking to parks who the park was created because the land was taken from indigenous communities or whatnot. So to have that foundation of kind of the cultural respect and of the communities really refreshing.
It is, and it also generates a lot of support for the park. I've looked in some of those older parks as well, founded in the late 19th century and whatnot. And here, the lease arrangement generates a lot of support for the park, not just because of the economics that our families, that lease payment makes a big difference to, but it also like ties us, I think a little bit. I think it holds the park a little bit more accountable as well. We have regular meetings with those villages and those villages leadership, and just have conversations about how things are going from tourism to conservation. And I think that arrangement just makes us a little bit more accountable and a little bit more
Yeah.
approachable with the community as well, that lease arrangement.
We were talking about the 3 islands that are part of the park. What differentiates those 3 islands?
Oh, that's a really good question. The main island, Tutuila, is the big city of American Samoa. When I say big city, the entire island has about 40,000 people on it, but it's where you'll find the international airport, a very modest hospital, and most any good in service you can find on the mainland. If you bring a little island patience and flexibility, you'll find your barbershops and fishing supply stores, and we even have an Ace Hardware, all that stuff here. The other two islands that the park is on, Ofu is the smallest. Ofu is like a shark tooth mountain that comes straight out of the sea, surrounded by some really lovely beaches and coral. The park is on one of those strips of beach, and that community has about 100 people today. They live a really subsistence lifestyle, fishing. It's not hard to find food here, and that's true on any island. You could walk outside with nuts in your hands, blindfolded, and you'll end up with bananas and papayas and avocados and pineapples and plantains and coconuts and breadfruit. And the land just provides an awful lot of food. So a lot of folks live a subsistence lifestyle out there, and the park does allow for subsistence fishing and harvesting in park waters. And then the island of Ta'u, I mentioned, has most of the park land. Most of the acreage is on Ta'u. Ta'u has a population of just shy of 1,000, maybe 800 or so. And Ta'u is less of a shark's tooth coming out of the water and a little bit more of a mound. That's where you'll find Mount Lata at 3,300 feet. It's home to the only indigenous snake in American Samoa, the Pacific boa. I have not seen it myself yet, but that is where you'll find our indigenous snake species. It's also home. I mentioned Ofu has the diversity of corals. Ta'u does as well, but Ta'u has one of the largest known corals in the world. Her name is Big Mama. It's worth a Google search. It's a Porites coral. It's a domed coral that is about the size of, I don't know, a small house.
And I know you've only been there for a little over a year. Have you seen it?
I have not seen Big Mama. I have
Okay.
not seen Big Mama yet. No, but I look forward to it. I am, in addition to working on my Samoan, I am working on being blue carded or being allowed to scuba dive for work.
Okay. That's very cool. And then when we talk about the preservation, the natural preservation is super important. The fruit bats, I'm intrigued by them. I don't know. I've heard there's National Bat Week and there's certainly a lot of caves and there's other parks that do things, but the fruit bats and the way their importance to the environment there is incredible to me.
Yes, fruit bats here, they all they need is their fruit, which sounds easy when I was describing how much fruit
Right.
is found around island, but it can that balance can get tipped a few ways. In fact, one of the impetuses for the creation of the park was a large cyclone. For those of you in the northern hemisphere, cyclones are what we call hurricanes down here. Same phenomenon, but different hemisphere. A cyclone, a very powerful cyclone. I don't know if it was a category 5 or 4, but a very high wind cyclone literally pulled the leaves off of every single tree here on Tutuila. You can find photos of it. Just it looks like the island is naked. It is
Wow.
a very odd look. And the bat population almost went out, almost extirpated. So yeah, when under normal conditions, it is not hard for a human or a bat to find the fruit they need on island. But if
Yeah.
you rip all of the leaves off of all of the trees, they have a really hard time coming back and producing enough fruit. And if kind of bat ecology at all, it's an awful lot. If you're a flying creature, this is why hummingbirds need a lot of flowers. If you're a flying creature, you can't pack on extra fuel in the
Mm,
form of fat. So they are very quick to use their food, and so it goes in quick, comes out quick. And so if you disrupt their fuel source, they don't have a pantry, they don't have
yeah.
fat reserves, and yeah, the bat population was in pretty serious decline. In fact, prior to that, it was legal and customary to eat fruit bats here,
Really?
which is something that
Huh.
if you come from the mainland United States might make you feel a little bit queasy. But that was the way of life here up until recently. And it was that incident of the cyclone and the bat population decline that led to the local government formally banning bat harvesting. And the local buy-in was pretty immediate. And so I think that also speaks to the ethos here. When a culture is ready to give up what is a really important cultural tradition, just like
Yeah.
that, for the benefit of the island neighbor in the form of a bat, I think speaks volumes. I don't know if other cultures would be so willing.
Yeah.
I particularly don't know if my fellow Nevadans back home would give up, I don't know, I'll just say like beef, for
Right.
instance, if it meant that it was better for our home.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right. And they're big pollinators there. It's like a mutual well, it's the cycle of life, right? It's we needed them, we need them. It's not just that they're cool to look at. There's a reason we need them.
Yeah, they are good pollinators, but actually they're called fruit bats, but I see them most with their head inside flowers. So you're absolutely right. There's a tree here, and I'm not going to get its name off the top of my head, has big, beautiful white and pink flowers. And you almost always see a bat's face dug inside those flowers, just nectaring it up.
So are they endangered?
The Samoan flying fox is endangered locally here. It's doing really well. Traditionally, its range was larger, including all the way down to Tonga, a few hundred miles south of us. They're no longer in Tonga. They are endangered. The other flying fox species we have, white nape flying fox, I don't believe is endangered. Don't quote me. I can look it up if you like, but it is much more plentiful throughout the region. You'll find it in Papua New Guinea.
Okay. The other species, the other living thing that I often forget is an animal is your coral. And I
Uh,
just always think they're rocks. And then I start to read anything about them. I'm like, oh no, Missy, you knew this. This is an animal.
yeah, our corals. I didn't know when we opened this call, I told you I get to play marine biologist. I have a coral researcher in my office at least every other week. A group just left, the group is coming in. We had researchers from the Shed Aquarium in Chicago, as well as the Natural History Museum of New York here for 2 weeks. Lots of universities. The corals on Ophel in particular are some of the most studied corals on Earth, thanks to the work of Old Dominion University and a number of others. They've been shown to be they're not impervious, but they are very heat tolerant and heat resistant. As the ocean temperature warms, they are a bit of a refugia, sending out little baby corals throughout the region as that coral home is really healthy and productive and heat resistant.
Is there like a hope that they could that some of these corals could live other places or in the world?
Yep, exactly that. In fact, it's funny you bring it up. I told you that coral conservation has a thing. Just in 2 days, we have a multi organization, mostly different universities. Myself and a marine technician are joining them for a conversation about biodiversity banking, which is to do exactly that. So, how can we kind of bank the biodiversity of these really important corals? And then, how can we also replicate them in
Uh,
places that they're needed?
and do no harm to the ones that are there, I'm sure
Yeah,
is a
you know
big
how I'm
part of
the
that.
ones that are there. That's above my head. I get to play marine biologist. I'll have to get back to you on a question about that.
I'm launching this series called Our Story, and it's about a person, a place, or event that is so impactful. Maybe we need to do an episode on your corals, just talking about the corals there.
Really, and we'll get on. I can point you in the direction of some subject matter experts. And I think about coral scientists, their work is really hard. It's hard to get grant money. They're often traveling to crazy places. They're very passionate, so they're happy to preach
Mm.
and share their work for sure.
I love it, and they're beautiful. They're just amazing to look at and witness.
Yeah, they are.
With the environmental impact, have the corals in your region seen changes as the environment changes?
Yes, for sure. Our corals have seen changes. It's hard to pinpoint any one event to larger systemic changes, but there was a large bleaching event here on Tutuila 3 or 4 years ago. Corals can come back from bleaching events, and ours largely have. I
Okay.
didn't know that until I got here. Coral bleaching is akin to, I don't know if coma is the right analogy, but they can come back. They when they bleach, they have been startled greatly, but they can and here have largely come back. The issues of protecting corals in American Samoa specifically are a few fold. One is terrestrial development in the form of, name it, new roads. There's an area on my commute. There's an area that has amazing corals. It's in a bay called Whanga'alu. I've snorkeled it many times. And this is where human needs meet hard conservation work in coral communities. The local government is installing a desalination plant, right? Who can argue against that? I certainly can't. Every single person here needs reliable drinking water. But in that area, you'll see the runoff. When you look in the bay, that postcard picture of the turquoise waters now has a large brown spot. And it's not aesthetics. If you're the coral, that is suffocating you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that they are animals. They are animals that need sunlight most of all. So the quick coral 101, corals are these tiny little organisms, almost like the sea anemone, that live inside what we see as their corals. And I'm going to use very layman's terms because that's what I am, send out little arms into the water. Inside their little gel arms are their symbiotic friends and algae. And so that algae needs the sunlight to photosynthesize and turn sugars, which it then hands over to the coral. This is how corals eat. So when you cover their spaces with sediment and dirt, that's a big issue. Relatedly to terrestrial development can cause algal blooms, algal blooms that do the same thing. So especially with organic waste, namely sewage, most often sewage, it's a great fertilizer. So the
Mm.
same way we put manure into our gardens, when you put a lot of human waste into the ocean, the algae takes on that extra nutrients and has an explosion of growth. which also then shades those corals from photosynthesis,
Interesting.
essentially starving them. Those are two. And then one that I always want to bring up is an issue called stony coral tissue loss disease. It comes from the Caribbean, and it has done a lot of damage in the Caribbean. But thankfully, since it did start in the Caribbean, folks have been able to study it closely, and we know a lot about it. It is transported in the ballast tanks of cruise ships, or it's most often cruise ships, but any ship that has core ballast water sanitation protocols can spread it. It affects only dome corals, so it doesn't affect branchy. It only affects dome corals, but it is the
Huh.
COVID. It is the COVID of dome corals. It'll kill 60, 80%, about 3/4 of a community in 2 weeks.
Oh,
Not choke them, not bleach them, kill them in about 2 weeks. So it comes. The good news is, if it is in an area, we know how to treat it. So we basically have toothpaste tubes, but inside those tubes is a gel filled basically with antibiotic. It's not unlike just squirting Neosporin. And marine biologists will get in there and just inject that gel into the cracks of domed corals, and it will cure them. So it is very much a human disease. You mentioned they're animals, they get infections just like us, and stony coral tissue loss disease is one. That's
yeah.
one that keeps us up at night. The main island here on Tutuila is very industrial. It gets ships from all over the world, including cruise ships, all the time. It's probably an inevitability that stony coral tissue loss disease will end up here in Tutuila, and we'll do our best to monitor and address it. The other islands that have experienced much more isolation, especially when it comes to industrialized ships, do give me some concern.
Wow. Fascinating. Let's talk about planning a trip there, because this
Sure.
is not a let me just pop by kind of park. This requires a plan. What is the best approach that you recommend people take when planning a trip to National Park of American Samoa?
Sure. I would strongly recommend to come here in the summertime. Summertime for mainlanders, winter time here. So June, July, August, September. June, July, August, September. It's just less rainy. We are in our rainy season now, and I don't care where you're from, whether it's Sitka, Alaska, or on the Olympic Peninsula, or somewhere in Florida, you have not seen rain until you've seen our rain. It
Really?
rains and rains. Oh my goodness. It rains and rains and rains and rains. I'll give you we had a record year last year
Like rains like for days without
for
stop?
days. Oh yeah, days.
Wow.
And sheets, like someone's turned the ocean upside down.
That works well because a lot of people, when planning, are looking for mainland summer holidays, and that works well for visiting American Samoa.
Yes, it's also when our whales are here. Our
Mm.
whales are here, especially July, August, September. We got humpback whales and we have sperm whales. So that's a great time to come. And then other considerations coming from mainland USA, the only way here is on a flight from Honolulu on Hawaiian Airlines. Those flights are currently Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Because I've been doing some planning myself, it looks like they're switching the Thursday to Friday later this year. But I would start with the flight from Hawaiian down here and then work backwards to wherever you're coming from.
Okay. And then when they get there, where are they gonna stay? They'll stay on that main island. That's where
Sure.
everything happens, correct?
Yeah. There are more Airbnbs than when I came here as a visitor. The island has at least 30 Airbnbs, as well as, the top of my head, at least 6 or so hotels.
But they'll have to stay outside of the park. The park doesn't have
Correct.
lodging.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. To be more direct, the park does not have any lodging or camping.
Okay. And then so they get there. Hopefully, they've done a little planning in advance of this next question, but what can they do on a visit in the park?
Sure. At the top of the list, I'd say this is a hard place to get to. And if you're going to come all the way down here, I'd recommend that you see at least one of those other islands that I mentioned. To get to those, you're going to have to get on Samoa Airways. You can book your flights from the main island here, quick 20-minute flight over to Ofu. And I would do that well in advance as well. Many visitors get here, they have the time, they're here for 7 or 10 days, and then they try to find a way to get to Ofu. And the flights are sold out, they're very infrequent, and they miss their chance. So
Yeah.
the more you can plan and give us a call, we're happy to help. The more you can plan ahead and get your flights to Ta'u or Ofu, the better. When you are here on Tutuila, this is your hiking island. In a perfect trip, I would say go snorkel Ofu, go get your cultural dose on Ta'u, and Tutuila is a great hiking island. The Alava Trail is awesome. The Fati Fati Trail loops into a lava, and you'll use ropes to climb up some really steep rainforest mountains. The Tuafanua Trail, we have rope ladders that take you down a cliff to the north side of the island. If you are a hiker and like a little bit of adventure, this island is really for you.
And then so when you go to these other islands, is it out and back in the same day, or do you go and you stay on those islands?
You would go and stay. So the flights, there's a flight, for example, to Ofu. There's a flight on Tuesday. It goes there and it comes back. It has people to bring back. So your options are a 1 hour stay and basically not getting off the plane, or a 48-hour stay.
Okay.
And then aside from snorkeling, there's a hike on Ofu as well. I would definitely pack a book, maybe one of your download some of Missy's podcasts. It is an opportunity to really disconnect and relax and be present in that place, which is also my nice way of saying if you are the kind of visitor that is looking for a pub or an ATV tour or any kind of nightlife or a gathering or even a restaurant, you're going to be hard pressed on the outer islands.
Okay. And what I know water activities are very popular. What is it everything from like scuba diving, snorkeling, boating? Is it all of that?
It is all of that. It is not always easy to find. If you've traveled around a lot of tropical places, they tend to be more developed when it comes to tourism infrastructure. If you go to Hawaii, you can't walk 5 feet without someone trying to rent you snorkel gear
Right.
or take you out on a whale watching tour. That is not how it is down here. So I'd recommend people bring their own gear.
Okay.
You can find it, but it's a little bit of a chore and the shop may or may not be open. So the more you can bring your own gear, the better. There is one boat charter on island available to folks. I would give them a very long notice. They are booked
Okay.
for months and
Okay.
months if you are looking for a fishing or boat charter. And there is a water sports rental shop in Pongo. They rent out kayaks and stand-up paddle boards. The one thing I would say you'll want to learn, and where the park is here to help, you'll want to learn your tides. The ocean here, the coral here, I should say, likes to go all the way to the rim. At low tide, you'll see the coral out of the water. So at most tides, if you're not right tucked into a little nice pocket, if you're out there swimming, you're most likely getting
Ouch.
scraped
Yeah.
on corals.
Okay.
High tide or keeping it in the harbor. And again, we can help point folks in the right direction, but the coral here is a thing.
So really it's a place, immerse yourself in the culture, a lot of hiking, and a lot of just relaxing.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
relaxing. And also, this isn't really park related, but one thing that I think will surprise folks when they come to the main island and see Pongo, today it is really a melting pot of cultures. We have a lot of Filipino residents, we have a lot of Vietnamese residents, we have a lot of Chinese and Japanese residents, and we have a lot of other South Pacific folks from Tonga, from Fiji. And so the restaurants here provide a really awesome, diverse experience as well. So if you want to try a lot of different cuisines that you would not expect here in American Samoa, that is a thing.
That's very cool. And we talked a lot about it being a rainforest. So that probably means like light and breathable clothing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I would avoid any natural fibers like the plague. No cotton
Wick,
and
wick.
wick and embrace the wet.
Oh,
Embrace the wet. When I'm not working, typically just in board shorts or gym shorts and that wicking light synthetic material that we're all familiar with and sandals.
yeah.
And that is just the uniform that lets you get in and out of the water as needed. And it rains and you dry off. It's so warm here. It is so warm here that rain jackets aren't going to help you. One, it rains so hard that it's going to come right to your rain jacket. Two, you're going to just turn yourself into your own sauna. Just be wet. You'll dry
Well,
off.
and like talking about merging the cultural side of the park and clothing, you were telling me before we started recording that you're the only park that embraces the cultural attire.
Sure. Yeah, we wear lava lavas or kulatasis for our female employees. traditional. They're in the NPS colors. They'll have the NPS arrowhead on them, but I'm in my alava or skirt right now.
Is there anything else somebody needs to consider when planning a trip?
We are not open Saturday and Sunday. The park grounds are open, so all that hiking and whatnot, but the visitor center is a Monday through Friday operation.
And so I think for those who are taking that Friday flight in, if you need to get to the ranger, you either got to do it pretty darn quick or communicate with you all in advance, which is a lot of parks are open to that.
Sure. Yeah, we certainly welcome that. Email us, call us anytime.
Yeah.
That Friday flight that is coming later this year is new, and that will be a thing. So if your listeners are out there, the flights here are always the same time. They leave Hawaii at 4:30. They land here at 9:30 p.m. and then they go back to Hawaii. The flights out of here are always a red eye out. So that's a long way of saying that Friday flight will land late Friday night, and we won't be reachable until Monday.
Yeah.
So definitely keep that in mind.
Something to know. PT, we end every episode with a speed round of questions. Just answer with what first comes to mind. What is your earliest park memory?
Seeing and hearing a baby elk nurse on a hike. I was in college and I was hiking Rocky Mountain National Park. I'd been to parks earlier, but this is what came to mind. And I could hear the suckling of this newborn elk. And it was amazing.
What made you love the parks?
Humility. The national parks to me are a place where we are reminded that humans are not the only important thing on this earth. That sometimes it is an elk calf, sometimes it's a humpback whale or a flying fox or a coral or hollowed ground where people made sacrifices for this country. But there are things that are as and sometimes more important than us.
What is your favorite thing about National Park of American Samoa?
The team, my coworkers, hands down.
What's your favorite thing to do at National Park of American Samoa?
Hike Lower Salma, and if it's 100% safe, get in the tide pools.
What park have you yet to visit, but it's on your bucket list, and why?
My list is long. I'm almost there, but Kobuk Valley in Alaska, desert landscapes. A lot of folks don't always equate cold and desert, but they often go together. Desert landscapes, some really cool archaeology, and river rafter. I'm a big river rafter, did all of the Grand Canyon earlier this year, and I'm headed to the Zambezi River in Africa later this year.
Okay. What 3 must-haves do you pack for a park visit?
This will disappoint some people. My headphones, water. That's it. I don't know if I have 3 must-haves. The only 2 must-haves, I'm looking at my backpack right now. The only 2 things I'm not going anywhere without is water and headphones.
Okay. What's your favorite campfire activity?
Oh, watching it. It's the original TV.
And are you in a tent, camper, or cabin?
Or preferably tarp, just under the stars.
When you go for a hike, are you doing it with or without trekking poles?
Without.
What's your favorite trail snack?
Smoked oysters, although they can be messy.
What's your best animal sighting?
A jaguaruni in Ecuador.
What is your favorite sound in the park?
The ocean.
And what's the greatest gift that the parks give to us?
Humility.
PT, thank you so much. This park has skyrocketed to the top of my wish list. I loved learning about it, and I can't wait to see it in person. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for the fun conversation. Call anytime.
That's it for today's episode. Until next time, we'll see you in the parks. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and share on your favorite podcast platform. Music for the Parks podcast is performed and produced by Porter Hardy. For more information, please follow us at The Parks Podcast or visit our website at theparkspodcast.com.